Hello. Welcome to a new installment of DeKalb Talks Tourism. Very excited to have a couple people with us today. We have Debbie Brilling, who is the executive director, and we have her son, Jonathan Brilling, who is the outreach coordinator for the Auditory Verbal Center. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. We're excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited. I've been talking to you before the show, and it's going to be a great show today. We've got very important information you're going to share with us. But before we get to actually the organization, let's start telling us a little bit about your all selves.
How we became involved with the center,
Just
or
background on who you are, and then you can get into how you got in the center. But like, what do you do?
So
Where are you from?
I was actually raised in Puerto Rico. Came to Georgia to go to college at Berry College, then moved to Atlanta. Had my own mortgage company. Got married and had 2 children. And then I found the Auditory Verbal Center because both my children were born profoundly deaf. And I was looking for help for them.
Yeah, and I'm actually a graduate of the program that we're going to talk about today. So I was actually born profoundly deaf in both ears, that I do wear a cochlear implant. And because of the Auditory Verbal Center and the work my mom did and my dad did to teach me to hear and speak, I'm able to hear and speak and talk to anybody I want to, talk on the phone, go dancing, listen to my kids, laugh at my silly dad jokes, and annoy people when I don't want to listen to them because I can take off my cochlear implant and not have to listen. But because of this organization, I get to live the life I want to and help other kids learn to hear and speak as well.
So did go to college?
Yeah. So I actually went to military boarding school for high school, and graduated military boarding school and went on to Gwinnett Tech to get my marketing management degree, and went out to I worked several jobs and finally got hired at the Auditory Verbal Center and got to do all the development and outreach to be able to help raise money to help the children and spread the word about who we are, doing all the public speaking events and working with civic organizations and things like that.
And don't forget to be a mentor for a lot of these clients. We
That's
are a
true, too.
nonprofit. And so, yes, we do a lot of fundraising. But more importantly, Jonathan and Samantha serve as mentors, because when a mom gets the news that their baby is deaf, their dreams are crushed. They're thinking about, oh, my baby will never hear me say I love you, never hear the birds, never hear sound around you. And through our approach, the auditory verbal therapy approach, these kids learn to hear and speak like Jonathan.
Yeah.
And very often parents want to meet the kids to see the end result and know that everything's going to be okay.
So at the end, I want you maybe kind of give me a history of did it start here or where, but what I think right now what we really need to dive into is what is the center? Like exactly, so you are deaf, but I can tell you right now in the studio, you would never know it. That's such a cool, you are not deaf to me. So I know physically you are. But
Yeah, that's correct.
Let's dive in there, wherever you all want, because this is so intriguing to me.
So the Auditory Verbal Center was founded in 1977. And they believed that children could learn to hear and speak. So 2 women started the program, and it's grown over the years, and now we have 2 locations, one in Macon, one in Atlanta, and then we also do teletherapy to reach out to all the children across the state of Georgia. And that really helps a lot because it overcomes the barrier of transportation, even for those kids that live here in Atlanta who Medicaid transportation can't get them to our center. But at any rate, the Auditory Verbal Center is an early intervention family education program. So we're coaching the parent or guardian, grandparents, whoever is raising this child, to be the primary role model for their child and to be the teacher of their child's development. We coach them, along with the child, how to put meaning to the sound that they hear, to teach them the same way you and I learned to hear: detect sound, discriminate it, identify it, comprehend it, bringing it back out in a natural environment. As long as they have access to sound through hearing aids or a cochlear implant, we're going to teach them how to be independent communicators. They come to our center for 1 hour a week, do therapy with my therapist, and then go home. And the parent is expected to do this every day, an hour a day at home. And then just bathe the child in sound naturally all day long. Talk to them all day long. Don't put them in front of a screen. talk to them while you're cooking dinner, or talk to them while they're running around. And again, we're coaching them how to do it. When they graduate from our program, they're age appropriate, expressively and receptively to a normal hearing child, mainstream in a regular hearing classroom by the time they're 5 years old and are in kindergarten. Don't isolate these kids. Don't put them in a contained classroom for the deaf. Raise them like you would raise any other hearing child.
So I guess one question that came to mind before we get going, and more of this is, like, I don't know how I'm going to ask this. Like, you know how when we hear that we can hear so far, and in it, can you hear more? I guess does it set up that you can hear someone where we actually couldn't hear them yet?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have a lot of unique tools that go with our cochlear implant or hearing aid. So, like, if we go into a loud, noisy bar and there's a band playing and I'm tired of listening to that band, I can actually turn down all the background noise and only hear the people that I am sitting with or talking to, while y'all are still struggling on hearing what everybody says. So there's a lot of perks to being deaf.
Okay,
with
so you
my
answered that even more so.
And what about your Bluetooth?
Yeah, and then I also have Bluetooth, and I can actually stream all my phone calls and my music straight to my implant. So I could be sitting here jamming out to music, and you have no idea.
I honestly could not figure out why, like with my mom, we could never get her phone situated. I'm like, I could not figure out why they couldn't have her phone, or Apple could get her phone to go to her hearing aid. So that actually works with your system.
It works with hearing aids too now.
Yeah.
The hearing aids that they make.
It's been a while now for my mom, I guess, and she probably couldn't figure it out. But I've always thought that was weird. So you have the 2 centers in Georgia.
We do.
And now is this across the country, their centers?
No. There's actually only about 1,000 certified therapists in the entire world.
Wow.
It's a very specialized field. You have to have your master's in speech-language pathology, and then it's 3 more years of training to get certified in what we do. So it's a very specialized field, but your end result is incredible. What makes us different than just a regular speech pathologist is we're teaching them to listen, not the articulation of producing the sound, but to hear it, and if you can hear it, you can repeat it. So we put hearing aids on as young as 2 months old, get them fit with hearing aids. If they're profound, we're working with them with the hearing aids, stimulating the ear until they can get a cochlear implant, and they are now implanting kids as young as 9 months old. Once they get access to sound, hearing aids, or an implant, then you get into an early intervention program, which is what we are, early intervention. And they're going to be there 2 to 5 years, depending on the degree of loss. If there's other disabilities, little over 60% of the kids have multiple disabilities, but we're working with just the hearing impairment part.
Wow. Have you thought about doing your master's degree?
No, I have not, but I actually should. I should consider that. Why do you think I should?
Well, I mean, if there's only 1 in 1,000, and you would be coming out of the program from being the deaf person, per se, and just the fact that you could, with your outreach, you could both outreach more people because you're the masters, you're the certified. I think you said you had kids before the show started.
Yes, I do. I have
so
3 kids.
It seems like, I don't know where the school is. So, I mean, I'm talking off the cuff here.
It's a center, not a school.
Center, okay, well.
And so we're at Claremont and 85 in the Century Center complex, and then an office in Macon. And because it's so specialized and there's not places all over the place, we started teletherapy back in 2010. So when COVID hit, it was an easy transition. We know what we're doing when it comes to teletherapy. Because I'm a mom, a parent of 2 deaf children first, I will never turn a child away, either because of money or have a wait list. So we will do things like, if you don't have access to a tablet, I'm going to just send it to you. No questions asked. If you don't have access to internet, I'm going to put it in your home and pay for it as long as you're in my program. There's nothing we won't do to help these kids. And every child, needs toys because we're working through toys. And again, it's about listening. So we give every child that comes through our program a learning to listen kit that has a lot of toys in it that are your learning to listen sounds, like an airplane, a bus, a cow, various different sounds that they're going to work with. 65% of our kids are on Medicaid and have no means to get this kind of stuff. So we just provide it free of charge. We don't ask questions. We just give it to you.
And part of the reason we don't have a wait list is if you don't stimulate the auditory processing cortex of the brain before they're 3 to 4 years old, meaning if you don't access that sound, put sound in to access that portion of the brain, it develops atrophy and dies off. And so I can't take an 8-year-old who hasn't had any access to sound and teach them to hear and speak as well as we do. So it is critical that we get those kids as young as possible, starting at 2 months, or even if a child is 3 years, we'll still teach them to hear and speak. The younger the better, just because of the auditory cortex of the brain.
Well, let's, if I can, let me jump into, and this is not a political, I'm not talking about him as his policies, just him as everyone knows him as a national speaker. Back when Rush Limbaugh was alive, you told me before the show started, he woke up as an adult and had this program.
He didn't have our program. What happened is he woke up as an adult, completely deaf, got a cochlear implant. He did go through some listening therapy for a couple months to relearn how to hear. Hearing aids amplify, they get really loud. So it's normal sounds, but really loud. Where a cochlear implant is an electric current, electric impulse. So the sound is completely different. And he had to go through listening therapy to learn to hear with the cochlear implant. And then once you've done that, everything sounds normal to you once you've learned to hear again.
Wow, that's just so amazing to me.
Yeah. So if you woke up tomorrow completely deaf and you didn't have any access to sound, you would get a cochlear implant just so that you can be able to hear. And you can come to our program. We do adult rehabs. We're able to help adults learn how to hear and speak with it as well.
Our focus is the children because it's that
Right.
birth to 5, and we need to reach out to every child in Georgia. We partner with a lot of organizations to help get the word out there. And again, there's nobody in Georgia we can't reach because of our teletherapy program. But it's so critical to get these kids at such an early age.
That's lovely. Do you all like my wife used to work at a preschool, like at the Greek Annunciation Day School.
Oh, yeah.
She taught 3-year-olds, but that's too old by then.
That's a borderline if they're just now being diagnosed at 3.
Of course, I guess that would be if they by then they probably wouldn't even be going to the school because they would. I was just trying to think of outreach for you, but that's really too old of an outreach.
So your pediatricians need to understand that when the child fails at birth, because we're real fortunate, every child born in the state of Georgia is tested for that hearing loss before they leave the hospital. If they fail that test, they need to go for a follow-up within 30 days. And then if they fail again, it'll go straight into what we call an ABR, auditory brainstem response, where that's where we get our diagnosis, where we're measuring sound, brain waves to sound. We can detect what degree of hearing loss you've got and then fit you with hearing aids. Unfortunately, pediatricians aren't taught about language development and hearing loss, so we need to educate the pediatricians to get them to make it an urgency to get that follow-up test, get them into early intervention, and then they'll be fine.
Wow.
Very, very often people say, let's wait and see. Let's wait until they're 2 years old. There's not time to wait. If you fail at birth, you need to jump on it. It is critical. It's an emergency.
Yeah, because I know with my kids, they went to the same doctor up until adulthood, and every year they did the hearing tests and the eye tech.
But they don't start it until they're 5.
Ah.
So once you get in, you have to have it to get into kindergarten. By then, you've lost too much time, and you're 5 years delayed if you're born profoundly deaf. If you're born with a mild, moderate hearing loss, you may understand some things, but not enough to learn spoken language, and you'll end up being delayed. That's why it's so critical that first year you get the help that you need and get that test done. And, you know, just because you pass that test at birth doesn't mean you're home free.
Right.
Hearing loss can show up at any time. Antibiotics can cause hearing loss. Syndromes that show up. There's lots of reasons. In fact, on average, in Georgia alone, 278 kids will fail that test at birth and be diagnosed with a hearing loss. That's a lot of kids in Georgia. That's just Georgia. And another 200 kids on average will get a hearing loss between birth and 5 years of age because of the things I mentioned earlier with syndromes that show up, antibiotics, ear infections left unattended, and you end up with a high-frequency hearing loss. Lots of reasons for hearing loss.
Wow, just amazing.
Like loud sounds, cranking the TV up too much for an infant. They don't need to hear those loud sounds. You need to keep your house quiet.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So when I blew out my speakers to Doobie Brothers, that wasn't a really good thing.
That was not a good thing.
Yeah,
No,
probably not.
No. And did you feel a little muffled for a little bit, and then
so
it cleared
long
up?
ago, I don't know.
Yeah. So that's what that's high frequency hearing loss that you get, or if you've got tinnitus, that's a high frequency hearing loss. That's a very.
I must
common
have
thing.
high. That we were talking before the show that like when I was tested, I can't hear a lot of times female voices that are high and very quick. If they talk really fast, I can't understand what they say.
Yeah, that's a high frequency hearing loss.
I mean, you can't really do anything about that.
You can with
Except for-
hearing aids. You get hearing aids, and they'll take care of that for you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
So your center. I mean, I'm sitting here trying to figure out would it be helpful if we got Monica and we went over and like toured your place and put it on a video?
Oh, I would love that.
I mean, is that something we could do, Monica?
Yeah, we could do that.
That would be kind of neat. We've done outside stationary shows,
Okay.
but we've never really gone and walked around because we've got lavalier mics now, and then they have the cameras. It might be if you'd want us to, or if there's something to show.
Absolutely. I would love that. Every therapy room has an observation room, so you can watch how we're doing our therapy. You can see our ever so famous toy room.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 800 square feet of toys from shelving floor to ceiling of toys that we're using during the therapy. But it would be awesome because people automatically assume hearing loss sign language. They don't realize there's an option.
I did. I mean, I came to the show, full disclosure, and you already know it anyway, that I came prepared to talk about
Sign language.
Sign language. And I have 2 kids that's taking sign language right now just as a foreign language in a sense.
Exactly. And it's a beautiful language. But while you're in our program, don't do sign language. Once you graduate, you're 4 or 5 years old, you can learn sign language at that point. It'd be like you and I learning Spanish or any other language. It's a foreign language.
Right.
But when you're in our program, focus on spoken language. Learn to understand the meaning of the sound so that you can be independent communicator. And John's not a superstar. He's a superstar to me, but all our kids come out like Jonathan. Independent communicators, able to talk on the phone because they were given the chance to learn to understand spoken language.
Well, I have to say, John, because when I got here, we talked about this too. We talked about a lot of it before the show, that I'm blown away that you actually are deaf.
Yep. Nobody ever
Because
knows.
I didn't notice it until you took your thing off, and then I'm like, because you don't sound deaf. You not that you. There's no way, I guess, to act deaf, but still.
Right.
Yeah, it's such an amazing thing, and I think it's not really tourism. I get it, but it is quality of life, and I think tourism affects quality of life. And to me, this is something that everybody needs to know about when they have kids.
And we're right here in DeKalb County, which is
That's
awesome.
what's also amazing to me too.
Yep.
Where would you go to get your master's degree if you did this?
Oh, I actually don't know. A good friend of mine got his master's degree at Duke University, so I really have no idea. You got any recommendation for me?
No, I'm getting my PhD from Clemson, but that's in park recreation tourism management. So I'm getting in tourism management. I'm going fully online. So there's a lot of medical related things I've noticed were online. So you could keep your job, what you're doing, and but I don't know about that. But I'm literally in I'm in my 3rd year of my PhD online.
Oh, wow. Are you a Clemson fan?
I am now.
Well, that's great to know because several of our board members are actually Clemson fans, so you would fit along with them on the Clemson.
Yeah, I probably like Clemson somewhat, but I'm a fan now because I go there, and I have to go a week a year. I just got back from a week of residency for my third year PhD. So,
Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
That's impressive.
Congratulations on going for that.
Well,
That's
thank
pretty
you.
awesome.
So I support you getting your master's degree big time. I got my master's degree after 30 some years. I was besides a senior in the as far as age, I was senior in, like, I hadn't heard talked about undergrad for 30 plus years. I got my master's degree when I was in 2018.
Oh, wow.
And then all of a sudden I'm sitting in London, England, in our global trip, got a global degree from GSU. And I get asked if I want to teach, and I'm like, no, why would I do that? About 3 weeks later, now I'm in my fourth year teaching master's event management at GSU. So I highly recommend.
Oh, wow. That's
Especially
actually
so
pretty
this
cool.
is your field, this is your thing. You could impact so many people, because it's interesting. I find it interesting how anymore, a lot of times when I'm introduced, he is the executive director of Discovery Cab, but he's a professor at Georgia State, and it's like all of a
Right.
sudden I got instant credibility. Where being CEO just like kind of meant like, yeah, he just, that's what he does. So I guess I highly recommend you getting your master's and
Yeah.
be one of the few certified in the.
Oh, I'll definitely take that in consideration and think about that, kind of explore that option. That sounds pretty neat. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get more auditory verbal therapists out there.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
you've got my attention big time. I mean, one of my sons had to go through not the auditory but the speech
Speech therapy.
speech therapy when he was younger, and he's
Mhm.
perfect now. Can't get him to shut up anymore. So yeah,
Well, that's what's so cool about what we do for the deaf kids, because it's so much fun to watch them just run their mouth,
Uh-huh.
and they're able to talk to anybody, and you're not there to interpret for them or speak for them. They're out there with everybody else, which is awesome.
what I think is so important is you're getting this at a young age. Like,
Yes.
quit using me, but I didn't find out I was dyslexic until my youngest son is severely dyslexic, and I'm going through the sessions going, okay, that's me.
Wow.
And I didn't find out I was ADHD. I just thought I was always bored or something.
Sounds like
Until
me.
again, two of my sons went through the ADHD. I'm like, okay, that's me. Now people around me probably go, yeah, he's very ADHD. He gets, But it's so important to like get it at an early age.
Yes.
Yes.
Because like I'm 60 and I've dealt with it my whole life, but I didn't know until maybe 10 years ago or less that I'm not just strange. I just have an issue that
Mm-hmm.
that I know is an issue.
We need to try to get out to like moms when they're pregnant, before you have that baby, so that they really understand the importance of hearing loss and how that affects language development. Because your ears is the pathway to your brain, and if that door is closed, you're not going to learn language.
That's right.
You got to open up that door. And the way you open it is through hearing aids or a cochlear implant. And we need to educate early moms because, like you said, it's that early intervention component. The younger we can get them, the quicker they're age appropriate and living life on their own.
You got me wanting to go get a hearing check because I'm worried about
Please do. Please do.
Yeah.
It's critical
We
that you
do have an audiology department. It's only one day a week to help support the kids and the seniors going through our program. But we'd be glad to take care of you if you want to come and get a hearing test done, and we'll get a baseline, see where you're at, and monitor that. If you need hearing aids, we can certainly dispense hearing aids as well.
I hope I don't, but I am starting to be cognizant of things that I don't hear that I used to hear.
Yep.
So we got a couple guests in the show. Any questions from you all as we're listening?
No question, but I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed with the center and what you do. It's just amazing. I had no idea that the concept even existed.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. I'm pretty partial to it because back in the 90s, I was just a mom looking for help for my two deaf kids.
Yeah.
And once they graduated from there, like I said earlier, I had my own mortgage company. I had the honor to volunteer on the board of directors, so we're always looking for board members because we are a nonprofit. And then next thing I knew, they offered me a job, and I took it. So I closed down my mortgage company and have been running the place ever since, and that was 22 years ago. but it is amazing what can happen when given a chance. We just got to tell everybody. So anybody that you know or anybody that's listening to us, somebody always knows somebody with a hearing loss. They need to just help spread the word and let them know that deaf children can learn to hear and speak with no limitations.
Really good. Crystal, anything?
I'm just very intrigued with the support in the community. Like, how do you operate with that? Like, how do you get people to be involved with you all?
You know, coming to the center and seeing it firsthand will blow you away. Or hearing Jonathan or any other graduate. Some of our graduates, like Anna Blair, is auditioning right now to be a Rockette. Her brother, who is 18, just graduated from high school, will be going to Georgia Tech. He got his pilot's license at the age of 16. How awesome is this? A profoundly deaf child has his pilot license. You have to be able to hear wearing those headphone sets and hear the tower, right? So when you see that and you really understand and comprehend what it is we're doing, how can you not get involved? Because you're changing these kids' lives forever. And we do look for volunteers. We look for, obviously, donations. We have 2 fundraisers a year. People like to come out and help us with that. We have a wish list on Amazon so that you can buy toys for the kiddos that we give out. You know, like I said earlier, there's nothing I won't do to help a child out to be able to learn to hear and speak. So please help spread the word.
Absolutely.
Well, why don't you go ahead and tell us your location, your website.
We are located, it's 1875 Century Boulevard, so we're on Claremont and 85 for the Atlanta office, and on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Macon. Our website is www.a, V as in Victor, C, HEARS.org. So avchears.org.
And you can also find us on social media using AVC Hears as well.
Yep. LinkedIn and Facebook.
And Instagram.
What's that? Yeah, Instagram.
Very interesting. Now, I'm assuming this isn't a hereditary thing.
It is. It will. Yes and no.
Skips or
yes and no. So 92% of your children born with a hearing loss are born to hearing parents. Typically, deaf adults don't have deaf babies, which I find pretty interesting. You can have a hereditary loss. You can have a either male or female dominant gene. It can be a loss from an antibiotic, like a preemie gets put on a heavy antibiotic to save their life, but could end up with hearing loss. There's all kinds of variations for the hearing loss. Primarily, I think, hereditary, but it's going to be when you get 2 recessive genes and they meet up, and then you have a child with a hearing loss.
Wow.
Yeah.
In our family's case, it was a male-driven gene from my ex-husband. So it became a 50-50 chance versus a 1 out of 4 chance of having a child with a hearing loss.
Yep. And both my sister and I, we don't have deaf kids in either of our families. So it kind of skipped a generation. So it may hit our kids when they have kids.
Very interesting.
So that's why we say, for these families, because 92% are born to hearing parents, it just makes sense that you would raise your child in the language of the home, spoken language. And because of that, we also have a huge Hispanic population, and we offer our services in Spanish, be able to help, because a child will learn better from the language of the home. And if Spanish is your primary language at home, then our therapy will also be in Spanish. So we have 3 bilingual therapists in our center.
Wow. So do you work, I don't know if this helps at all, but do you work with like the Latin American Chamber and the Mexican American Chamber and all the different chambers? And
We have not yet. We need to reach out to them,
we do.
yes.
I don't know if they hit at that age that it's appropriate for you all, but it's just something I was thinking about that could be.
It's definitely
way
worth
to
looking
go.
into.
Mhm.
Because I know Chambly is very Hispanic.
Yes. it is.
Yes, and we have a lot of families that come from the Chambly Norcross area,
Mhm.
the Doraville
Dorval's very,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep. Yep. We have right now, it's like 23% of our caseload is Hispanic.
Well, I think Chambly's population is majority Hispanic, and majority of the Hispanic, I think, is Guatemalan.
Oh, interesting. That
That's
I did
interesting.
not
I didn't know
know.
that.
Oh.
That's good to know. I didn't know that.
Tucker's not very Hispanic.
No.
Tucker's,
No.
it's not really majorly internationally diverse.
No, our neighbors in Clarkston have.
Clarkson is very
very-
diverse. I mean, it's the refugee capital of the world, I think, and in one of the most diverse per
Uh-huh.
square mile in the world.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
I did not know that. I didn't
Yeah,
know
it
that.
is.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're trying to reach out to all kids. Like I said, here in Atlanta, we have the office in Macon, so Middle and South Georgia, and then that teletherapy program really makes.
So, what's
a
the closest
difference.
state to here that has this same program?
That has a center like ours? Don't know that there
I don't-
is one.
Yeah.
There's what you find is auditory verbal therapists, like one or two working in a hospital and offer this services. Or you've got like the Clark School down in Jacksonville, Florida, which is an oral school, but they have an auditory verbal program, and see a few kids on auditory verbal program. You got the Atlanta Speech School here in Atlanta, which is an oral school for birth to 3, and then they are developing an auditory verbal program. But a center like ours with 8 therapists, there is not
Wow.
one.
Yeah.
So potentially the only one in the South, at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Now, do you
Yep.
all work with like the Howard School? It's all different speech impairments.
No, because we're only going to work with children with a hearing loss.
Okay.
You
And
have
it's
to have
also
a hearing
getting it to where
right.
even at their kindergarten they're still older, but
Right. And
That's
see,
right.
by the time they get to kindergarten, it really is too late if they have not already gotten some intervention and been fit with hearing aids or gotten a cochlear implant. It is that early intervention component that is so, so critical for the success of these kids.
yeah, you're really talking about the tough ways because now you got to get to really the doctors or individuals because by the time they get to where you can think of a school from what I've been trying to think about,
Yeah.
it's just too late.
Or, your listeners
Yep.
are hearing
True.
the story. We go out and speak to Kiwanis clubs and Rotary clubs anywhere we can.
Have you thought about going on? I mean, I don't know if the nonprofit has any money but going on like Atlanta and Company.
Nonprofit does not have money. 100% of the money I raise goes towards those kids.
I wonder
for
if
the
I don't.
program.
We can talk about that after the show, but there's an idea in my head.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
anything we can do to get the word out there. We work with the hospitals, the cochlear implant surgeons here in Atlanta. We have an awesome relationship with them,
Yep.
and they refer their kids because you don't want to put a cochlear implant in a child's head if they're not going to learn to use it, right? So we have a super partnership with them, and the profound kids always find their way to us. It's the mild to severe that get lost through the system. And those are the ones that still need, because any form of hearing loss, any degree of hearing loss can still cause developmental delays if not treated. So we got to reach out to those mild to severe kids. They've gotten hearing aids, but they're just out there waffling and have not learned to use those hearing aids properly.
Well, Debbie, John, anything you want to wrap up with? Any story, anything you want to share that we haven't talked about?
I want you to think about something. If you woke up tomorrow with absolutely no sound, what would your life look like? What are some of your favorite sounds that you would miss hearing every day?
Why don't we ask
The guest in the room.
the guests too?
Do you have any favorite sounds that you would miss hearing?
I'd say the sound of the morning, like that, the birds chirping. And
Yes, I love that. I open my windows every morning to be able to hear that. Yeah.
And you take that. I mean, I know that's something you do, but I guess I was sitting there thinking of what you just now said with the sound of the morning, and it's like you take it for granted.
Yeah.
When you're on vacation, all of a sudden I'm like more into like listening to the water and the birds, but like on my daily life, it's like I don't have the time. But
Right.
when you think about it, you really should be still enjoying those things. Not, we'll call it little things
Yeah,
in life.
the little things that matter. And then, but if you can't hear, where would you be right now in your life? Would you have the career that you have?
No,
Would you
if
be able
I-
to do the things that
If
you
I
do?
can't talk, I mean, my whole job is talking.
That's right.
I mean, I have the office, I have the home office, I have the mobile office. That's my kids call. I sit and park in the driveway at home for an hour and a half on the phone. If I cannot be on the phone and talking or on Zoom, I couldn't do my job.
No,
That's
you
right.
couldn't.
That's right. And that's why we're
Mhm.
here. We want the children to be able to have access to what your favorite sounds are. We want them to be able to achieve any dream that they want. And that's why we're here, to be able to help those kids do what they want to do. And it's all because of the support of people
Mhm.
like you, going around sharing the word, making the donations, coming have a tour of the organization and seeing the work that we do firsthand, doing
Yep.
what you can to get involved.
I'll share a cute little story. We have a client who got her cochlear implant. She'd been learning sounds, but was profound, had to get a cochlear implant. And after doing a few months of therapy, she all of a sudden realized that when you flush the toilet, it makes sound. You take
Yeah.
a lot for granted. My own daughter, when she got her implant, her favorite word was spaghettio, and it tickled in her ear
Yeah.
because there's so many frequencies in that word. But she was doing the dishes one night and realized for the first time
Yeah.
that the water coming out makes a sound.
Yeah, and was she like 16 at this time, something like
Mhm,
that? Yeah.
mhm.
So her whole life she had no idea that the faucet made sound.
Yeah.
No idea until she got that cochlear implant.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So,
amazing
yeah.
what access to sound can do for you.
Every child deserves the right to hear their mom say, "I love you,"
Oh yeah.
and hear the world around us. And so we just encourage you to please get the word out there that deaf children can learn to hear and speak. Any deaf or hard of hearing child, regardless of the degree of a hearing loss, early intervention is key. Don't waste time. Get in and get some help.
That's right.
Anything else we want to talk about before I wrap up?
I'll share what my biggest miss would be.
Can you hear her? Okay.
Could you just talk a little bit louder?
Sure. The thing that I would miss the most is everything. I live alone. I have 2 dogs, and I always have to have background noise. The television or music or, on the computer, YouTube. I have to have noise. When it goes completely quiet, it unnerves me. And the dogs, they're like, what's going on? There's no noise.
Right.
So I just having that soothing ability to have noise in the back. Doesn't matter what it is,
Mhm.
just something that pierces the silence. Yeah, it would just drive me nuts.
I'm like you, actually, because when I get home, I'll turn the TV on. Even though I'm not watching it, it's just sound in the background. Yep.
Yeah.
So my wife gets mad at me, or not mad at me, but like if I'm not on the phone in the car, which I usually like to be on the phone in the car driving, working or talking, but if I'm not, there's no music, there's no noise. I'm just like
Oh, wow.
thinking or praying or philosophizing or.
I get that. See, I'm the exact opposite of you. So I do love hearing my kids laughing, talking, making jokes, doing whatever they want around the house. But I also love the perks of being able to turn my kids off and not listen to them. First thing in the morning when I'm drinking my coffee, and I don't have to hear anything.
Wait
But
till
when
your
I am
kids
ready
get
to-
older, it's going to be yelling and screaming. And
Oh, it's
fighting.
already
right.
there.
My kids were actually like adults, young adults. So
The preteen years.
yes, you're lucky.
Yeah, he used to do that when I'd get mad at him when he was little. And he'd just look at me and say, "I don't want to hear it anymore." It's like, you can't be doing that.
That is one benefit of what you got.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm telling you.
Well, we appreciate you coming on the show. It has been unbelievably enlightening to a very important issue that everybody needs to hear. Well, everybody especially with the newborns.
Mhm.
But it sounds like even from the Rush Limbaugh story that anybody can actually benefit from learning this information.
Yep.
Yeah.
And learning about your center and your events you're producing, and you can donate toys and stuff from your site.
wish list,
Wish list.
on Amazon for under the Auditory Verbal Center. You can go to our website and just give a donation because, again, 100% is tagged to the kids. It doesn't go to the admin. Or come to an event, buy a ticket for one of our events, golf tournament or a gala. And if you're passionate about it, join the board of directors.
So when's your gala?
We've put it off to April 26th, but it'll be April 26th next year. We had it scheduled for September, but then we had football conflicts and conferences, and so we canceled it, and we're putting it April 26th of next year.
So where are you doing it?
It'll probably be at the Crown Plaza in Norcross, but I don't have the final location yet.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do a big shout-out, social media shout-out on everything and that's going on with the gala, where it's going to be held, when, and what the theme will be. And we always have a fun theme every year, so you'll see a big social media shout-out on it.
Yep.
Well, thank you all for coming to the show, and we will be scheduling the live walkthrough, or at least we'll walk through the building. So,
yeah, we're excited to have you there. Thank you for wanting to do that.
Yep.
Thank you all.
That would be cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please tune in to our next show and our walkthrough at their actual center. Thanks for tuning in.